MorningStar, a play as musical audiobook. The Land as Portrayed in Sound. Presented via audio recording to the Communal Studies Association virtual conference, Saturday, October 3rd, 2020, by Nicholas Alva. The story and history of MorningStar Ranch and the individuals who accidentally founded it and inhabited it is long and complex. The ramifications of the people and their actions, chiefly the deeding of the land to God, had impacts not only to 1960s and 70s San Francisco and Sonoma County, but to the nation as a whole in the legal decision regarding God's right to own land in the United States. Today's focus, though, is not the story of the commune and its people, other than how they relate to the land and how, in a strictly audio context in media, they help to portray the land as a main character in this production. The theme of this presentation is, how can the land be performed sonically? How can the land be presented orally to a listener in order for the listener to be able to grasp and understand, to feel, to see, to experience the land, which is generally silent, other than in quakes or eruptions or rock slides? How can the land enter into the theater of imagination, not just as some inert thing, but as a vibrant, necessary protagonist? And how to portray, again only in sound, the idea and the impact of land. Land, as Lou Gottlieb said of MorningStar Ranch, open land,
access to which is denied no one.
For after all, the land, that is the reason or motivation that draws many people to live a communal lifestyle. As a main character, the answer of the land's performance is portrayed precisely via its character. Or to put it another way, the land is realized and experienced via characteristics. Characteristics that have effects and effects upon everything in our reality on the planet Earth. Characteristics performed are the depth and the surface, its stillness and action, just as any other theatrical character would perform. But as an audience, it is a human actor that we are used to experiencing performing characters. What is the actor in the case of the land? It is not a who, it is not a performer or one performer, but it is many performers, many actors, portraying characters themselves who love the land and or who exploit the land. It is through these other actors, these other characters, in part, that the idea of the character of the land is culminated and performed. And of course, it is through narration that the idea, or even the ideal of the land, can be expressed. MorningStar, a play as musical audiobook, has 4 perspectives and 4 directional points that frame it in regards to the land. These are the 4 characters that portray the land. Number 1, the divine. Number 2, the natural. Number 3, living with the land. Number 4, ownership and some form of exploitation and or legislation of the land. The land can be both realistically presented and poetically presented via narration, actors, soundscape, and song. To do this, I used various stylistic and aesthetic approaches. Impressionism, symbolism, magical realism, romanticism, spiritual perception, realism based upon history, and historical fiction. I do so in both a folk style and in a neoclassical or neo-high art style. The folk style is the predominant one, which is apropos. In the preface to the Blithedale romance, Hawthorne says, quote, "In the old countries, which fiction has long been conversant, a certain conventional privilege seems to be awarded to the romancer. His work is not put exactly side by side with nature, and he is allowed a license with regard to everyday probability, in view of the improved effects which he is bound to produce." End quote. And Khalil Gibran states, quote, "The literature that we esteem as worthy is that only which draws its nourishment from life's soil and light and air. And the man of letters is he who is endowed with more than the average mortal share of sensitiveness and taste, and the power of estimation and penetration together with the talent of expressing clearly and loftily whatever imprints life's constant waves leave upon his soul." End quote. This means, this tactic, becomes a form by which to write and progress the story. It is all of the other characters' relationship and understanding of the land that is key to the story, that unfolds the history and aspiration of MorningStar Ranch Commune. And the narrator becomes an aide, a guide and a presenter of the land as well, as would be the case for any written novel. As such, the land becomes one of the main narrative devices to actualize the plot, as the land is the device or means to actualize existence within reality. It does so in a way that naturally causes the listener, hopefully, to be further engaged with the character, the land, because the listener has to hear what is being said about it and then manifest that in their mind and respond to it. The audience not only has to imagine what is being said or sung about the land, but also has to conceptualize and realize the land. The land, I think, actually becomes a deeper and much more powerful character by taking this approach. This may not be the best analogy, but think of Harpo Marx, who never speaks a word, but is always understood. The statement, open land, access to which is denied no one, is the key to the whole endeavor. It enhances and maybe liberates the framework and is also a starting point. With this statement, we realize that land is more than just merely a material thing, an inert mass of chemicals formed by accident in a certain way reacting to chance and gravity that just also happens to support the life on it, scientifically still unexplained as to origin. But it is open, it is active, at least to us, and to life through some form of interplay, through some form of exchange, through existence. It is accessible, and since it is accessible, it can also access us and other life forms. In addition, it is denied no one, which can be seen as meaning that all can experience land if they choose to. And now for some of the sounds of the land. I begin with the natural, number 2 of the 4 perspectives. For this I chose birds. Birds are not of the land per se, but they are of expanse. Birdsong represents the stage of the land, the range of the land, the distance of the land and its nearness. Some live on the ground, such as turkeys and quails, which are featured, but they fly and create a stage of sound, a sonic wall or perspective, and also freedom, one in which people can converse almost in harmony, and, at times, in harmony. Next, a blend of the natural with the divine, which is number 1 of the 4 perspectives. I will need to make a brief mention of the overall goal of this production, which is aspiration. This is what this production is really all about: human aspiration. It takes the guise of what intentionally ended up being a perennialist approach to spiritual aspirations of humanity and the archetypes of the main characters. How could it not, being a piece about communes and about MorningStar Ranch in particular? But there are various forms of aspiration. In regards to the land, the first aspiration demonstrated is the need to be able to live someplace. Lou with his wife Dolly, Ramon and his partner Gina come to the land. Lou and Dolly are still thinking of the land as a means of wealth, though Lou is changing. Ramon and Gina, though, think otherwise. They experience the land as a divine place, as the first perspective. Ramon's vision of the Divine Mother at this point, he sees as Mother Earth.
Arise, pure being, manifest nature. Arise, resplendent, forever arise. Thou art beautiful.
As they relax and settle in on the land, a quiet sense arises in all of their beings, a sense of wholeness and ease of being upon Mother Earth. Ramon is positively inspired by being here. He gets up and dances around Lou, Dolly, and Gina, deep in a conversation with Mother Earth that only he can hear.
Ramon, you are a fool, but I love you.
O earth, be fruitful. Thou art our own mother's breast.
I share with all life.
O air, scented with early mists. Thou art our mother's breath aura. O wind in the trees.
And not only thou.
O water, sparkling from the spring. Thou art our life current, our bodies race into thy rivers, our efforts merely dam thy flow. Ocean, ocean,
Womb of all of life.
O light, high fire of being, O sun, father, mother united. Out of thy brilliance we flew to a half-lit planet, only to find thy light buried in the dust dance of matter.
Naked, nameless, homeless, harmless, we welcome you, O sister, brother. Naked, nameless, homeless, harmless, we welcome you to your home. Come share in the love of our common mother. From her womb are all things born.
Next, the divine. Is the land alive? This is a fundamental question. I won't answer that beyond what many who came to the land believed or even knew. The land, as well as the sun and the universe, to many were and are alive. Gaia exists and as such deserves our attention, respect, and love. She is Mother Earth, which in the case of MorningStar Ranch is coupled with the experience that many had and a vision, true while on acid, that Lou and two women had of seeing the Virgin Mary. The love on the land by Divine Mother energy was felt by many. And prior to MorningStar Ranch, the commune, a previous owner nearly deeded the land to the Catholic Church in order to establish a Dominican site of worship dedicated to the Virgin Mary. This aspect of character and performer becomes one of the means by which the land can be expressed. A divine or spiritual aspect of the land, of the energy of the land, the sun, the universe. The sacred act of tending to the land, of gardening. This is the first, the primacy of my interweaved patterns that hold the story together, which is actually also a real aspect of the experienced history. To this day, Ramon Sender believes that MorningStar Ranch should be in a land trust and devoted as an American shrine. The question, though, is this the land? Or is it a residing of a divine presence on the land? In the context of this production, it is both.
So I needed his grace, and all here thereon, beyond the hand of man, and beyond his mortal law. So I needed his place, and all here thereon, to God.
Next, the natural with living with the land, number 3 of the 4 perspectives. There is just existence in the moment that recognizes and tries to commune with the all. This is represented by the hippie chanter, who sings songs composed by Alicia Bay Laurel and Ramon Sender, songs of gardening and of the universe, of the sun, upon the land, unfazed by the drama of history.
Once again upon the sky, coming o'er the top at sunset, lighting my way home until midnight, I will plant my garden in the waxing of the moon.
Next, ownership, number 4 of the 4 perspectives, in order to manifest the American dream of home ownership. This 4th perspective, interestingly enough, is the antithesis of the first. Therefore, theatrically, a drama is set in place. In the first scene, the first chapter, the Limelighters are performing live on radio. Lou talks of this with the DJ, and then the Limelighters sing an old spiritual based upon the Old Testament Bible. They sing of the promised land.
Well, we thought that we would start with a song about finding a place to live. Home free, home free, home. Which asks the musical question, where is my American dream house? A song about finding a nice place to live with a yard and a television set. But what price of property, let alone interest rates? Please leave those alone. We thought that it was too depressing, so instead we will start with this. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4.
I am bound for the promised land. I'm bound for the promised land. Oh, who will come and go with me? I am bound for the promised land. Oh, who will come and go with me? I am bound for the promised land.
The Municipal Court of Sonoma County will review and decide upon the legality of the transfer of ownership of the property known as MorningStar from Dr. Lewis and Dolly Gottlieb to God.
Whatever will that do to real estate prices?
You may all rest assured that the Municipal Court of Sonoma County will weigh the subject mighty carefully and will come up with the correct determination.
And we could all go home to the peace and quiet, the reason and the dreams we paid for when we bought our land.
And finally, an example of good old-fashioned narration of the character of the land.
Take, for example, the American romantic utopians in the 1830s. There had been romantic utopians before that in Germany, the Naturmensch, the natural men. Perhaps these Germans were the first hippies, civilized people consciously moving out of civilization to return to life on the land that is less civilized, i.e., in harmony with nature, each other, and perhaps God. Consider the utopians. A young woman in the Appalachian foothills, gardening, sitting on a chopped log, and tending green beans on a pole in line. Every so often during the process, she picks one and eats it instead of putting it in her bucket for later. Occasionally she tosses one to her husband, who is chopping and collecting wood nearby. Every so often they glance at one another and smile. Then they both hear something in their small log hut. The husband darts off toward the sound, which is a very young baby crying after awakening from her nap. Mother smiles and opens her blouse as the husband walks to her carrying their child. She nurses the baby. The husband saunters off to their hand pump and brings her a refreshing cup of spring water. It is morning. All three utopians are grateful and content.
What is important to realize is that the land holds all. We hear that it can be realized as a divine place, a natural place, a place for right living, and it can be heard as a place to be owned. And it is a place where authority establishes itself and monitors all that goes on. Spirit, trees, and the court exist intermingled. Fences are built on open fields. So in a sense, the land is also a stage. But more, because the land exists, so finally, there is just unfolding. So, what is the point? The land in and of itself cannot be performed. So, what is the point? The point is precisely that for this production, the land is one of the main characters, and as such, it needs to present, which to me is interesting, because the earth, the land, is always present. Even if we are in a skyscraper, this structure is still on the land. If we are flying high above it, it is what we need to return to. The land is a constant present, so much so that we often become unaware of it. To be aware of it sonically, it needs to be acknowledged, mentioned, described, pondered, and sung to. It needs to be expressed as a source. It needs to be heard via the metaphor in nature, via the metaphor of the sound of living creatures, in this production of birds and of people. It needs to be heard in the sounds of wind and waves, surface manifestations which take on a significance beyond just wind and waves, but as powerful life sources and forces that throughout history, but not so much in our time, were always seen as life-affirming, even when these things have had negative impacts upon us. And the land needs to be talked about, because in the conversation comes the shared awareness and the shared interaction of all with the land. And in the case of the hippies at MorningStar Ranch Commune, the conversation mostly was about how to live in a right relationship, not only with others, but precisely with the land.
Can you believe that we're all here on this splendid land? I feel so elated about this place. We have the beginnings of a real community sitting at this table, and I feel so blessed to be with you all. Some door has opened for us, opening to such opportunity, such possibility, such infinity.
It is your time to shine. My word, yes.
And that is significant as a goal in this production. That endeavor with all of the human condition, the natural history and spirituality, is the awareness and the pursuit that is needed so much today in our unfortunately toxified world. The character, the land, silently says in MorningStar, a play as musical audiobook, stop the destruction, end the toxicity, end the desecration, and live rightly upon me, upon open land, access to which is denied no one.
Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he put out a helping hand. Said anybody, anywhere can come and live here. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Up in California, up along the coast, there's a place way up there every traveler should know. Put your pack on your back, get on up to MorningStar Ranch. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he put out a helping hand. Said anybody, anywhere can come and live here. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. People came from everywhere just to make a home. Strangest bunch of personalities I have ever known. To build a house, have some fun, grow enough food for everyone. Ha! Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, he put out a helping hand. Said anybody, anywhere can come and live here. Hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, hey, Luke Gottlieb, he opened up his land.
Thank you.
Early springtime, flowers abound, everything sings. Baby birds are flying around, trying their wings. So we go to planting our seeds in the ground. Soft the April rains come falling, falling down. So we go to planting our seeds in the ground. Summer river waterfalls clean, ocean bound. Time to take a swim in the stream, bodies turn brown. So we go to tending our garden so green. Strong the summer sun is shining, shining serene. So we go to tending our garden so green. Autumn's bounty covers the earth, fragrant with food. Mother Nature's bosomy girth, brilliantly hued. So we go to harvest the fruits of the earth. Warm winds come laughing